don't want to do because I would go on the nut side. Okay, here we go. Yeah, I get to set it up for all of you. Normal or nuts? Why do I get so angry in an elevator when somebody presses the button that I've already pressed? Do you get angry in the elevator when somebody presses that button? No. Well, when you get angry, it says you're all too normal. That people tend to get angry if you're in the elevator and you press button number 5 and they come in and press 5 again, it says you're normal. Okay, normal or nuts? When I speak to someone, I often wonder how they might react if I slapped them. So do you ever think about how somebody would react if you slapped them? Have any of you ever wondered what somebody would... Yeah, that one I just don't understand. But it says you're normal if you actually thought about slapping somebody. I don't know. I guess the bigger question is, have any of you been slapped by somebody else? No? I did once, but we won't go into that. Okay. No, really, it was in high school, and it was nothing bad. I was just teasing a girl, and she reached over and slapped me. So, anyway, normal or nuts? When I'm walking around the city, I'm constantly making sure I have all of my bags, my necklaces are on, my cell phone's in my pocket, etc. Any of you do that? Yeah. Okay. Well, it says, the verdict is, you're probably normal, but because I do this too, I often will check my billfold. We're normal, but we got a little touch of OCD, obsessive compulsive behavior. Okay, normal or nuts? I can't handle silence. Can't handle silence, huh? Yeah, can't handle silence. If I'm around someone who's quiet, Wendy, you should have let me read this before you raised your hand. Okay, this fits. If I'm around someone who's quiet, I'll ramble on and on about anything just to fill the void. Normal or nuts? Normal. Yeah, the article says, you're pretty normal, but possibly you need a friend. There's more of I like this last one. Normal or nuts? I'm scared of puppets. Scared of puppets. There, I said it. They're supposed to be fun, but they scare the blank out of me. I can't watch a puppet show without getting goosebumps. Any of you scared of puppets? They say that the verdict is it's surprisingly common. People are scared of puppets. I don't know. I never heard of that one before, but it's normal if you're scared of puppets. Normal or nuts? So that's sort of what we're looking at this morning is, are we normal or are we nuts? And really, what controls us within those thought processes or the actions that we take, what controls our actions? And I just got ahead of myself there. It's more our thought process that controls the actions that we have. My wife is reading a wonderful book on health, and there's Dr. Gold. They did a study at the International Society of Neurocomodulation, whatever that means, group of experts who studied the effects of stress and depression on physical disease. Dr. Gold and the people found that the study of 26 women, half suffering from depression, the other half were walking the normal walk of life with our normal emotional issues, mental issues that we have. The depressed women all had high levels of stress hormones, and although the women were only around the age of 40, the depressed women uniformly had bone density of that of a 70-year-old. That mental stress, the emotional stress, was leading the women for their bone density to look like 70-year-old ladies, and they're only in their early 40s. Well, some of you maybe can recall Dr. C. Everett Koop's, or Everett, did I say that right? Yeah, C. Everett Koop's. He was in the 80s. He was the Surgeon General. I don't know how many of you recall what he had to say about those psychosomatic illnesses. His studies, he said at that point in time that upwards of 50% of the people who are physically ill in the hospital are there because of we mentally think ourselves ill. That mental and the emotions play on us so much, we will ourselves to be ill, and then we become sick. Well, mental illness, the World Health Organization defines mental illness as a state of well-being in which the individual realizes his or her own abilities and can cope with the normal stresses of life. Now, we could get into mental illness of bipolar, manic depressive, schizophrenia, anxiety disorders. You know, we could talk about all those things out there, but I'm not going to talk about those. Some, in my experience, some are chemically based. Some I've seen have been environmentally induced. And this one might be stepping on some of your toes, but I think some are spiritual. I think some are spiritual possession, demonic possession. We in America don't like to think about that somebody with a mental struggle might have a demonic possession. But if we talk to Christians in Africa, what I've read, they would say, yeah, they do demon possession. They do exorcism. You look in the New Testament, we have that takes place. That the people some who mentally had the problems, Jesus cast the demons out of them, and then they're well. So we could talk a lot about all that, about the chemical, the environmental, and the spiritual aspect of what is causing somebody to be sick. But I don't want to look at the fringe. I think we're all tired, aren't we, politically, of the two fringes? Yeah, I'm going to look more in the middle. Look more in the middle of mental and emotional wellness and mental and emotional healing. It's interesting that, as I said, C. Everett Koop said up to 50% of our illnesses were mental-based, and they become physical. Our thoughts are the seeds to our actions. Our thoughts are the seeds to our actions. Our thoughts are that which lead us into behavior. You know, we typically don't just act first, but we think about first. Now, I know that for some of you may say, oh man, PG, you're contradicting yourself when you talk about muscle memory. When we do something enough that our muscles just remember what we're doing and it becomes habit and we do it. Okay, I'm not taking away from that. But the reality is, for the most part, our behavior, our thoughts lead our behavior. What do we read in the book of Proverbs, the Old Testament? It says, for as a man thinks in his heart or her heart, so we are. As we think, those seeds are planted in our brain, our mental or emotional well-being, and we start to think about something, and that becomes what we do in our life. Well, some of you may say, well, our thoughts really don't have anything to do. I mean, we can think about a lot of things, and we don't play on them. We don't act on them. There's a lot of times that we may think about doing something that's not right, but we don't act on it, so that's okay, right? Isn't it okay to play in your mind? I mean, we tend to think that it can be, daydream, but what does Jesus have to say about that? And this is a passage that if you've never seen it before, it's one that really hits you. I pulled up the Message because this is a different way of looking at it in some respects. Jesus is talking to the disciples and he says, you know the next commandment pretty well too. Don't go to bed with another person's spouse. But don't think that you're preserved your virtue simply by staying out of bed. So in other words, just because you haven't committed adultery, just because you haven't acted on your thoughts doesn't make you righteous. Your heart can be corrupted by lust even quicker than your body. Those leering looks you think nobody notices, they also corrupt. Our thoughts are seeds to our actions. As a person thinks in his mind or heart, says Proverbs, so we become. So there's this battle that's